All right. Get my windows back together.
I thank you for joining us today.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our I guess this is our second installment of virtual programming with the African American Chamber of Commerce. We're super excited to have the amazing business doctor, Dr. J.C. Baker, with us today to present us with some strategies about navigating this COVID-19 crisis and where we are with our businesses. I personally got to meet Dr. J.C. Baker at the Lead Venue Awards last year. And it was really kind of, I say, God-driven because Dr. Baker and I shared some of the same kind of sentiment about what we were seeing in that very same room at that time. And ironically enough, that was my third day on the job at the African American Chamber of Commerce. Since then, Dr. Baker and I have been able to connect, and he has inspired me on how I should be dealing with consumers. And a lot of you guys hear me say that, that Dr. Baker does a great job because he talks about helping businesses where they are. And if you know me, that's what I'm all about. I know that there's not a one size fits all for businesses and for clients. And Dr. Baker truly, truly gets that. And that's why he calls himself the business doctor. And I know he'll explain more about that in the presentation. The other thing that I like to say about Dr. Baker is that not only is he a phenomenal individual, but he has a team of strong associates and practitioners that really do their thing. And when I was first starting doing programs and really revving up how many programs are happening at the African American Chamber, Dr. J.C. Baker made sure that he sent at least one of his associates, if not more, to my programs on a daily basis. And if you know me, support is really what I'm all about. So I am super excited. I even got on my branded green African American Chamber tee today. Okay, we are happy to have Dr. J.C. Baker and all of you in attendance today. And I turn the floor over to the amazing Dr. Baker.
Jordan Ivory, thank you so very much. And I thank everyone else that took the time right now to be able to learn a little bit on how to cope throughout these perilous times. Obviously, what we're faced with today is unprecedented. So we have to be really smart. We have to be very deliberate and vigilant on how we're going to navigate in order to make sure that our businesses remain healthy. Having said that, we're going to jump in. I would like to preface the fact that I will not just be dictating to everyone, that I actually expect for us to have dialogue. So volunteering would be really good and extremely helpful for in attendance today. We would also like to make sure that we answer any specific questions. So therefore, you don't just get a general message today, that you actually get something that you can take back to your company or your offices and be able to implement in a very tangible way. Can we all agree to be able to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, fantastic. I got me one or two yeses. That's all I needed from there. And that's all.
Yes, sir.
So good news. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump in and move forward. And so our company essentially operates as a business hospital, if you will. I have up to 20 different practitioners that work inside of the company. And what we specialize in are these four aspects, which is information, innovation, ideation, and imagination. So we help companies understand their operations better based on four realities. So we're going to move forward here. We're going to talk about the overview session where we're into COVID-19. We talked about the fact that it's unprecedented social and economic pandemic. And it started as a social reality, but for all of you business owners, you recognize that it's not just social, it has a profound economic impact. We were just talking today as a team, unemployment now has quadrupled its record. You have businesses that are going in reverse in astronomical numbers. You have uncertainty on when the ban will be lifted. So you don't know exactly how to plan or how to gauge your metrics and your baselines for your businesses. This is something that if you have any age on you at all, we didn't experience at the same level when SARS attacked. We didn't see the same thing with the swine flu. It's one of these realities where this is a global pandemic. We've been saturated with fear through propaganda and out of legitimate medical research. And so because of that, we have to understand what to do. So we've got this executive stay home order. Now, I would like for some people to unmute because I want to talk about this a little bit. Who's been directly affected by this stay home order? Is there anybody right now that's suffering because of this stay home order?
Yeah, this is Bertie from Switch Lighting. We've been directly impacted in that we are a retailer in downtown Cincinnati. And so as a non-essential service, we now can't even provide retail services to our customers.
And so when that order came out, from a health standpoint, it made good sense to be able to curb the pandemic. However, that was not the best news for you, right?
That's correct.
And so you're looking at it saying, well, you know, what's good for the goose may not be good for the gander in this instance, because it had a direct negative and proportional relationship to your business. And now you have to figure out, what in the world do I do about that?
Exactly.
You know, and so,
I'm sorry, my microphone was muted, but this is Harold, DJ HD,
yeah.
and I was also directly affected because the bars where it closed down, like specifically bars and restaurants, and that's pretty much 100% of my business at this moment.
Well, you actually just mentioned something that's different than Bertie, is that the governor didn't say we were shutting down Switch Lighting. The governor said we're shutting down bars.
Yeah.
Well, to you, Harold, that made you almost a conduit to the virus.
Yeah.
It gave you a negative connotation that Bertie doesn't have.
Yeah.
But what Bertie received was the residual. So when you talk about the residual, it's almost as if you took medication and the side effect gave you indigestion. You're like, well, I don't want that. Well, that's the side effect. So Bertie, you were the side effect of the executive stay-home order. Whereas Harold, you were the main reality that they were trying to fix.
Yeah.
And so both of you are facing the same trauma, but the way that trauma is manifested is differently because your industries are different. And we have to understand, well, how do I navigate that? Because the messaging is pointed at me in one way and it's pointed at someone else differently. So I'm glad that you guys were able to participate, and we're going to talk about that. Now we have social distancing. And has social distancing directly affected someone's business?
It affected me in the same way because, you know, as a DJ, a party promoter, you know, we deal with people on the regular. And as you guys know, I'm, you know, transitioning into ticketing, which, you know, I plan on, you know, doing most of my business with large crowds of people. So it's kind of making that area a little shaky.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Anyone else affected by social distancing?
I mean, of course, the chamber has most definitely been affected. You know, we do over 120 programs a year. We did 176 last year, and on track to do over 200 this year. You know, and you know, when this happens, it's kind of like, you know, I can't get people together, and I'm fortunate enough to have a great leader, you know, at the helm that again understood that, you know, we needed to take things virtual. But, you know, there's a lot of people that are in my position that have a job similar to mine that are now out of work, have been furloughed or laid off because you can't gather people. And just like Harold said, that's how you make your money.
So in this case, we're not talking so much about the social distancing that exists right now. We're talking about the mentality of how we're going to change our operation even in the future. What's going on, and I don't know how much you guys are familiar with the psychology of habitual behavior, but we are now training people to see the world differently in a way that may look different later. So that social distancing will still have an impact even when the ban has been lifted. And we have to be aware of that. And if it doesn't, then that means you're in good shape. But if it does, are you prepared for realities? And so that has to be explored. Well, the last thing is the unknown variables and timetables. So from many of the reports that exist, you're looking at an 8-week epidemic. I don't know if anybody else has heard anything differently. If they have, please let me know now. Is there anybody challenging that 8-week epidemic time frame? Okay, so based on that silence, you guys are generally accepting that. Well, if that's the case, then we're looking at the late of April or the early of May. Well, in the event that it actually does lift at that time, and in our minds, we would think, all right, well, we're going to go back to normal, but not if there's a new normal. Well, what else is unknown is if this is a reoccurring event. So the reality is there very well could be a coronavirus season, very similar to how there's a flu season. And if that reality is true, then what does that look like for Switch Lighting when every single December he has to shut his company down? Bertie, is that a concern for you?
It's definitely a concern for me. I'm not going to speak for Bernie, but
Sorry about that. I was muted there. Yeah, it would be a concern, but I think if we had better access to forecasting, if now we've got to tap into what organizations like the CDC are doing, and they can pretty much let us know in December we expect to have another coronavirus season. So that might give us 11 months in advance to prepare, maybe do some other kinds of things like maybe more robust online work and that sort of thing.
And so you understand that that makes all the sense in the world, except for the fact that they're being reactive as they currently do not know where those timetables will lie. That means that as a business owner, we actually have to be better at those assumptions than the experts have to be. Now, even though I say that, how do we tangibly go about doing that? Does anybody have any ideas on your own without me guiding it right now on how you can actually be better than the experts?
In the construction field, us contractors are taught to save all of our money from the summer and fall to use towards layoff season, which is the winter. So that way we're in good shape during the winter. So as business owners, we have to make sure that we put enough away to take care of our unforeseen needs and unforeseen circumstances.
Absolutely. That's one really good way there. And I think that was Sean Galloway talking. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in this reality is that that's one part of it. Another part of it is legitimately assuming the apocalypse, meaning if everything fails, what does that mean for me? If they come back in December and say that this happened, what did I learn from the current reality that I can go ahead and plan for now? Let me tell you one thing that business owners don't do on a regular basis is that they don't look into the future and say, well, how do these things affect me based on the things that I've learned today? And so I'll give you an example, and I'm gonna use a sport analogy. My apologies, but I was a former athlete, so a lot of times sport analogies make sense to me. But if you were playing football and you were in the defensive back secondary, you were guarding people, sometimes you would play a coverage that would cause you to get beat. And you would do it intentionally to say, well, what happens if we actually call this coverage, but the offense calls the best play against it? How would we react? How would we respond? And how would we be able to scramble to put ourselves in position to make a play? Well, this is no different. Is that we would have to look at all the available realities and say, what if the death toll increases because it mutates and morphs into something more aggressive next time? Now it's killing at a faster rate. What does that mean for my business? Are there things that currently exist today that will allow me to be able to leverage my operation and change the reality? Are there innovations today that maybe I haven't taken advantage of that will allow me to do things differently before everyone else does? Now I'm in position because I've trained the mentalities. So when we talk about the overview, we're looking at this overview and asking ourselves, this is unprecedented, but guess what? It will not be the only one. I was in the mortgage business when that crashed. I had been in mortgages since the year 2000, had owned property, had flipped property, had had a foreclosure company as well up until 2008. And when everything changed, people were reactively trying to figure out what to do. Now, I'm not saying that I had a crystal ball, but I was already transitioning away from that in 2008. And I already had backup plans. Well, where did that come from? By just simply asking the question, what happens if they move all the regulations? Then what? And so therefore you have to be in position for that. And so I think you guys, it would bode well for you if you formally went through a process to help you with these unprecedented and unknown variables and times. Anything else we want to add before we go to the next slide? All right, we'll keep moving. So the diagnosis here. So these are business objectives that we can start to think about here. And in this case, what is your value, product, or service? The reason why I wrote this is because it appears as if this is an obvious ask. What I've come to learn over 20 years of doing business and consulting for companies all around the world is that most entities really do not understand what their real value proposition is. I'll give you an example. We won't say any names and we will not mention the industry, but Kenneth Glenn is on this call. He's one of my practitioners, and we had a call with a small business owner yesterday. We asked that individual about their value proposition. And Kenny, did he actually have one?
No, he did not.
We went and we spoke to him about how much information he knew, how much credentials he had, what made him special, but he didn't have a real value proposition. Well, in that case, how do you expect to convert the market without a legitimate value proposition? So some of you are in businesses, let's if I use the three that spoke, Switch Lighting kind of seems clear and obvious. Dreamers Construction kind of seems clear and obvious. DJ HD kind of seems clear and obvious. However, that does not mean that the masses believe that it's clear and obvious. If I use Dreamers Construction as an example, there's all kinds of construction companies. And I would need to know if I needed my bathroom replaced, are you going to do that? If I want to put a basketball court in my backyard, are you going to do that? Or if I need to build a new commercial entity to be able to put 40 offices in it, are you going to do that? So understanding your market at a hyper level and being able to offer that value proposition at a higher level literally saves you in a time frame like this. So I want to ask you guys some questions when it comes to that value proposition. Can somebody explain to me in their own words what is meant by value proposition? And I actually want to hear from somebody that has not spoken yet. Now that means I'm calling it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, who is this?
Fred Tudor III.
Fantastic, Fred. Thanks so much for volunteering.
And I think you kind of hit on it, talking about what is the value that you bring to the table. What is it that you can do that the market or someone else in the market cannot do, and how can you sell yourself and position yourself in the market saying, hey, this is my value, this is why you need me.
Okay, so from a general standpoint, you're spot on. Here's where I'm trying to push your mentality, which is why I wanted to hear the words come out of your mouth. It really is about demonstrating something that somebody cannot live without. So it's not so much what you do differently, it's do they recognize that you're offering a thing that they just have to have? Now, some people would say, well, is everything that way? And I would submit to you that yes, everything in our planet Earth, somebody deems as necessary. DJ HD, you're at a bar, you're at a club, people have to have entertainment. It's not one of those realities where it would be nice to have. There are real people in this world that feel like their life is coming to an end unless they go and socialize, unless they can dance, unless they have music. They fall into depression. A host of things happen if they don't have that outlet. Well, if that's the case, then how are you articulating that to a position of people where now can I offer this in a way that encapsulates our time? So whether it's through COVID-19 or the release of COVID-19, and do they deem me as the person that they should be frequenting before they see anybody else? Hopefully this logic is making sense. Because when we say offering something different, well, if I have a hamburger restaurant, well, how many ways can I make my hamburger? Well, we do know that a hamburger with cheese and occasionally bacon and some lettuce on it means something, but there are people out here legitimately risking their health to go get a hamburger. The order says stay home. They left and got a burger. Well, what does that then mean? It means that that's a value proposition. I value the fact that I will go to this restaurant. So now you have to see your work and say, am I bringing that type of value to the masses, or am I just another one? Am I just a different option that I can do without? And so look at yourself and be critical that way. Pre-crisis operation, we just talked about that some. You have to have a formalized pre-crisis. So if you're not actively thinking about, okay, what's my worst case scenario in this reality? What am I not thinking about? I'll give you guys a personal example of my own business. I decided to become the business doctor because there's 134,000 new businesses a day. That's a real number and it's global. Well, in this pandemic, people aren't creating businesses necessarily every day like that during this time frame. That's okay. My market just shrunk by 20%, but the market is still so large that I'm still okay with that. Well, what next? My value proposition is an absolute need because I know things that the average small business owner does not know. So eventually they'll get to a point where their business is sick and I know they will need me. It does not matter how smart robots get. It doesn't matter how advanced we get in social media. My service will always exist. Now I just have to convince the world they should listen to me as opposed to someone else. And so my pre-crisis operation helps me understand where should I point those efforts. You guys have to be thinking in that exact same mode. And not just now that it's upon us, but for future reference as well. So now we look at the market conversion and the opportunity. This is pretty difficult here because many small business owners see themselves as something negative happening during this time span. So Bertie, I'm gonna pick on you here again in a moment. You have had a slowdown and a reduction in your business because of the virus. What positives have happened to your business because of the virus?
Hey, repeat the question, please.
Yeah, what positives have manifested themselves now because of the virus?
Oh boy, for us, it has now forced us to look at our website and to layer in an e-commerce component. And that was something that we had resisted doing because of the downsides of e-commerce, but now it's definitely something that we'll move forward with.
Okay, so now that you've done that, that creates a new business model for you. And not only does it create a new business model, it also creates other threats for you. But out of those threats creates new innovation, which then turns around and creates new opportunity.
Absolutely.
And so if you're not looking at that with the appropriate goggles, you will miss the silver lining, so to speak, in this reality.
Exactly. We also will focus more on professional lighting services, so consulting to architects and so forth. So, so as opposed to just looking at how we sell lighting, furniture, fans, and so forth to the retail consumer, we now will tap into, in addition to the internet, we'll tap into building our professional services profile.
So when you look at that, and I like the fact that you guys have made a pivot, I also am glad at the fact that you're using yourself as an example so that we can analyze and challenge some of those positionings. But I imagine this was not a stance that you took before this. Is that correct? You didn't take the stance to do architecture, professional lighting beforehand.
We had been doing some of it. We've done it for the last 12 years, but not in a concerted effort. Most people would come to us, so it wasn't a stream that we marketed. So now what we will do, given our larger projects, we can now package that and present ourselves as lighting consultants, lighting professionals, and then work as a part of the professional design team. So as opposed to just waiting for them to reach out to us, we will now pivot and reach out to the broader design community.
Absolutely. And that's looking at your business and saying, okay, we might not have mastered this revenue channel, but now it's on the horizon because of this virus has created and afforded us a new opportunity to be able to diversify our offering some. And that's what you want to do when we're talking about in the diagnosis. I'll give you guys an example. It is incomprehensible that the US Postal Service or FedEx or UPS did not take advantage of email. They should have been able to be ahead of the game, offer it as a premium service, and get paid on every email that was ever sent. But they didn't do it, and they didn't understand the magnitude of that opportunity. Now it's been broken down, and one of the few services that I'm sure that you all remember is that your first email account was probably Yahoo or AOL or Hotmail. Well, it would have really been smart if it would have just been UPS mail, and they didn't do it. So why am I bringing that analogy up is that there's things going on right now that touches your business directly that you should be capitalizing on. So don't be lazy in your thought process, but really attack these realities and say, how can I morph into something new that allows me to be able to catapult myself? So even if I took 2 steps back during the virus, I actually leaped forward in my 3rd quarter or my 4th quarter because of the activity that we created during that time. Next place we'll go is the execution plan during the uncertainty. So, Mr. Tudor, I want to come back to you. What line of work do you have?
Financial consulting, financial coaching.
Okay. So now when we're looking at this, this changes how people feel about their dollars and how they plan. Is that right?
Correct.
And now how do you execute your reality now that people have seen the Dow drop 3,000 points in a week? How does that help when people's retirements were tied into something that's going in reverse, or people are on unemployment now?
For me, it's just making sure that I get the message out there. So one thing for me that I'm kind of big on and focusing on is budgeting, and with that, having money set aside for emergencies. And I think this will help me specifically because consumers and businesses, I mean, if there was money set aside for emergencies like this, I think it wouldn't be as big of an issue trying to make things happen for individuals and businesses. So I think this is, I mean, I don't want to sound like a downer, but it's good for our industry and finances and coaches and things like that, just because it's more, you're more aware of. Everybody knew that they should have had something in place, but they just didn't do it. But now it's like, hey, something can really happen. You need to get something in place.
Well, what's really amazing about that perspective is that that logic actually flies into the face of our economy, because 72% of our gross domestic product is predicated on us just spending away and not putting money away. So now you're balancing the reality of, well, our new behaviors are not just to simply spend, but it's actually to save.
Correct.
And then from there, how do we shift that mentality? Because some people might say, well, now because of the pandemic, there's nothing to save. So now it creates the new opportunities of saying, okay, well, how is income generated, or how is diversification work? I know that there's people on this call right now that is still very uncertain about how to diversify so that they can also generate additional income and not have a side hustle, if you will, but legitimately have a financial plan that says these actions here generate these dollars here, which then increase my business here, which allows me to invest and save there. But these are also concepts that people don't necessarily think about all the time, because we actually are spending all the time. And so it's a paradigm shift. So now our execution plan is how do I go out every single day and take care of these realities in a way that forces people to engage in a way that I want them to. And that means that all of your movements have to be intentional and deliberate in order to accomplish that. So if I'm sitting in one of you guys' seat now, when I'm not converting a client, or if I'm not allowed to convert one, all of my work is in planning. You guys should be coming up with every single plan imaginable, and you should have a wish list that's forever long so that you can then tailor it back down and figure out what you can execute at a very high level that also serves as necessary value for your audience. You know, this is not one of those time frames where it's like, well, we're just gonna have to ride this thing out. No, you need to actively be preparing. What does my next 60, 90, 120 days look like? Where do my capabilities lie? Where am I deficient? And how do I plug up those deficiencies? You know, there's another reality here when we talk about market conversion and opportunity, is that once the ban is lifted, how many people can see a reality where people will actually behave at a much more aggressive level once the ban is lifted? Can you all actually see that?
Yes.
Yes, sorry, phone muted.
Yep, that's fine. That's why I was being patient. So DJ HD, for an example, does that apply to you?
Yes.
Tell me how.
So when you're saying uh, that there's going to be a new normal, there's going to be a new market swing, um, that's specifically what I'm thinking about. What you're saying, does that apply? Does that apply to me?
Correct.
I'm saying online marketing and social media is going to become more important for my business because I mean, I've even noticed it during this time period. Of course, everybody's screen time is going up, but my social media as a whole has been just getting more and more traction and visibility. So, you know, one thing that I haven't been considering is like, you know, just doing more videos and explainers and, you know, having a whole total online presence. But now I've like shifted to, like I said, I recorded a online DJing class. I've started to interview. I recently interviewed. I mean, I did that in the past, but now I'm, you know, shifting towards doing that more, just to create new models. And I'm also considering like an online DJing app.
So in that case, you're talking about some of the execution plans and some of the wish list items. What I'm specifically talking about is how many people are sitting at home wishing that the bars and the clubs are open and they cannot go and they're not used to that behavior. The
Oh,
moment
okay.
the ban is lifted, is it conceivable and reasonable that some people will say, hey, I'm back at the club?
Oh, for sure.
Now, but
Oh,
you
for
also
sure.
have to recognize that some might say, I'm not ever going to go back.
Yeah. I've been actually polling people on my social media about that. One of the questions that I asked was, after this epidemic is over, will this bring people closer together or further apart? And I worded it specifically like that just to, because I didn't want to specifically say, are people going to party more or not? And I also didn't want, because I didn't want people to feel ashamed of, like, you know, wanting people and wanting to be around others or whatnot. But the results were drastically in the direction of people are going to be closer. People can't wait. People have been sending me videos of old parties we've had. You know, today is opening day. So last year on opening day, it was like one of the best opening days we ever had. And it's just everything is making people miss how we operated.
And so if that's information that you're taking time to pull, that's called, you know, qualitative analysis. And then that analysis is going to help you make those future decisions,
Mm-hmm.
which is why this market conversion becomes important, and it's going to tell you where the opportunity is. So hopefully for everybody that's on the call, you think about your business in this way and you say, how can I put myself in a preparation state? Once again, for anybody that just jumped on the call, sometimes I do use athletic analogies and references, but a team goes to camp first. No one makes a dime during camp. You're a third round draft pick. You're feeling great about life. Told all your family you play for the Giants. You have not made that roster yet. You have not made a dime either. But it's necessary for you to go to camp to demonstrate what you can do, work on your game, and hopefully you make the roster so that you can demonstrate your value to the rest of the world when the season starts. You guys are very much in camp right now. That's what the crisis has done. It's forced you to be able to look at your entire playbook of your operation and say, okay, what am I missing? Are my financials off? Are my projections off? Do I really understand my market, or am I hoping to engage in a market? What about my execution plan? What's my process like? Do I have the appropriate systems for growth? What happens if these people come back and they come back in bulk at a level that I'm not used to? How would I handle that system? You know, we've got a reality now where you call the Office of Unemployment, they won't even answer the phone now. You go to the Small Business Association and try to get a loan and the system can crash because they're not prepared for these realities. Well, when you look at it as a business owner, you say, what's my worst case scenario? They uplift the ban. What does that mean for me? Or if they uplift the ban and people behave in the opposite direction of what I anticipated, what does that also mean? So that diagnosis becomes really key. We're going to go to the next slide here. So let's look at some remedies. You know, what are some of the things that you can tangibly take that's going to help you make some money? So what are some of these solutions? We just talked about this a little bit, analyzing your current reality with the future expectation. Here's the thing. An expectation is not a random guess. So if I use you, Harold Douglas, again, as it relates to you polling the people in your community, within your social community, you should be able to generate a legitimate expectation on behaviors after you've talked to 400 or 500 people that's been to your club.
Mm-hmm.
And you would say, based on that, 85% people say they're about to turn up. They're about to go nuts. Well, I better be prepared for that. And you also have to be prepared in the event that out of those 500 people, maybe 4 of them had an experience where somebody close to them actually died from the virus. And they told you, yes, they would be there, but now their perceptions have changed. They've gone on social media and they've got a decent following and they've convinced some people not to participate. And instead of you getting 85%, maybe you'll only get 42% now. And what does that look like? And being able to manage to that expectation. So it would be wise if you were polling these people at some level every week while we're going through the pandemic, while information is being pushed. For those of you that aren't in that type of space, it's really important for you to get engaged on your clientele base. How many follow-up calls are you guys making? What kind of meaningful conversations are you having with your current clients or clients that are on the fringe? Give you an example of that. I've spoken to every single one of my clients. If I haven't, then one of my practitioners have, and we know exactly where each and every single one of them are. And we know that some want to continue to engage during this time, and we know that some want to wait until late April, early May, and some have said, look, talk to us in August. Well, we know for a fact we're past it. But the thing is, we know where they are, we know where their current feelings are, and let's say, for an example, they told us to reach back with them in August. We're still going to produce a wellness check in April. And it doesn't have to be, well, you know, we just want to make sure that we're still on your radar and you still want to do business with us. It could be as simple as, I heard this new reality and it sounds like it affected your business. Are you doing okay? I just wanted to check on you. You were the first person I thought about when I saw that on the news. Or this new executive order came out and I knew it was going to affect you directly. How are you handling that? And you want to stay in front of your clientele base. That will allow you to be able to analyze where you are currently and then create an expectation that you can lean on. All right, so now we have to also look at exponential growth strategies. What else are you doing to generate dollars for your business that is not in its typical way? So once again, DJ HD, you've been really transparent about some of the work that you've been doing. But in this case, you've stated that, well, I'm kind of thinking about these 4 other metrics, these 4 other things. And maybe these things will bring me dollars in where I do not have to be in front of everyone spinning the ones and twos, but I can actually teach them something or give them something in a way that reaches them where they are, which allows me to be able to supplement my business earnings. And so all of us should be thinking about the exponential side of it. So when we say exponential, we're saying not a 1 + 1 reality, but a 1 + 1 = 6. Where do those efforts go? And so I'll give you an example of me personally. We own a company called Graduate. It's a apparel and promotional product manufacturing company. So we're not a brand. We are a brand, but we're not just a brand. We're actually your thread and the manufacturing and the supplier. Well, what we've done in this moment of crisis, because our orders have gone obviously either in reverse or they've halted because people's budgets have halted, we've created new potential business later that will residualize over time. And because of that, it changed our pro forma. So we know what our new financial assessments are, but we've also added another 32 to 36% on what we will possibly make at the end of this year and next year. So we know what to expect from that reality, but it's an exponential growth strategy because we've been able to residualize it. So once the deal kicks in, the deal will always exist for us. Hopefully this logic makes good sense for you, but these are the strategies that we're talking about. And if you don't know how to execute them, or you haven't thought about them, it becomes really important for you to try to wrap your mind around or seek guidance in how you can do it to make sure that you're more sustainable. We're going to continue on. Runway management. You know, Mr. Tudor, I would imagine that if you were talking to one of your clients and you had been advising them on their finances for years and they decided that they were going to leave their W-2 employment and create a company, that you would be able to talk to them about having a legitimate runway, meaning that how much dollars do you have put aside? How have you gone about saving, or how have you gone about reallocating to make sure that you always have enough reserves to be able to sustain you in a time of trouble or peril? Now, I know that we've all talked about this. Sean Galloway mentioned it earlier, that in the construction business, you guys know to put money aside because a slower time may come and you want to be able to last through that. But that's only one version of a principle. If you were talking about runway management, not only would you put money aside because it's good construction business practice, but you would also put money aside for the money that you have to put aside. That's runway management. So now it's looking at how many distribution channels, how many revenue models do I have to employ in order to be able to create my runway management? Well, if you've never had one before, now is the time to start looking at those components because you've been forced now to reevaluate your game plan. Then next, vision mapping. We've talked a little bit about vision mapping today and throughout the conversation, but it's once again looking at everything beforehand, working yourself backwards, and then looking at some of the substitutes and complements of the industry. So I want to hear from somebody new here in a moment so I can use an analogy that specifically is tailored to their businesses. But I want to give you an example first. When you're talking about substitutes and complements, you're talking about condiments, mustard and ketchup on a hamburger. If there's a problem with ketchup, there's a problem with hamburger. If there's more vegans and black bean burgers or soy burgers become the new norm, well, hamburgers now suffer. So out of someone that has not spoken, I want to learn about a different industry. Let's talk about some of the substitutes and complements. So because of the virus, what has the virus done to your business, to something else that you need in order to be pretty good that's affected you directly?
I know I spoke already, but could you ask that question again?
Yeah. There are certain ancillary things, side things that affect a business. And so I use the example of hamburger, but now I'll use the example of a vehicle. If gas goes up, then SUV purchases go down. Even though gas is not at the dealership, they're directly proportional because you can't drive the car without the gas. So they're two separate industries, but they connect directly to each other. Gas goes down, more people buy SUVs. That's substitutes and complements. So there's things that's happened with the virus that's now changing something else that's now forcing you to change. And I want to hear from somebody, what does that reality look like? And it has to be something. I have an example. That means we're not looking at our business closely enough.
Dr. Baker, this is Carl Daniels. I'm a business banker here with PNC. I was invited by Kenneth. A lot of things that I'm actually doing is advising a lot of my business clients and those who happen to be prospects as well, where they don't have the actual retail, foot traffic, but they also have access to other industries like manufacturing, like a clothing store, clothing designer, where it's like, hey, I understand you may not be receiving the foot traffic that you want, but does your manufacturer that you utilize have the capacity to actually partake in some of the shortages of making PPE masks, hospital gowns, or anything else like that in order to actually receive a governmental contract outside of what you're currently doing as far as your clothing line? So that's how I've been advising some of them. That's just one example.
Carl, that example was dead on. So I want to say that in other words. You're a manufacturer, which that example you gave legitimately happened to us at Graduate. We were asked for 500,000 masks and couldn't produce them because our overseas producer of them out of Bangladesh didn't have access to them. But it wasn't that we couldn't have fulfilled the order in our own capacity. The virus did not stop our operation from doing that. It stopped Bangladesh's operation, which then stopped us. And that's what we're talking about with substitutes and complements, is that there's other realities that affect your business. Now you have to determine, well, what does that look like? So because we had that issue, and we didn't just have that issue here in March, that issue hit us in January. So when that hit us in January, we changed our manufacturing structure over the last 2 months, in which we purchased another manufacturing plant. And then we went and said, we need to strategically place another one in an area that gives us more resources, which is why we decided to put one in the Philippines. Well, the point is, that's a substitute and a complement. So in your personal businesses, there's other realities that are affecting you that are just more than the virus itself, and people and their inability to frequent your stores or your offerings. But these other companies are also having a profound impact on your business. And so in your vision mapping will help you see those trends, those substitutes, and those complements. And in some of those cases, you have to intentionally look for them. They may not be as obvious. Well, now we continue to move forward and we look at the treatment plan. So in this treatment plan, some action steps is that we got to find new methods of operation to leverage. We talked earlier that, Birdie said, now that this thing is transpired, we're looking at, some professional lighting realities at more depth and more detail and more comprehensively than we did previously. So now these new methods of operation become really important. We were having a conversation with a global client actually just yesterday. Kenny Glenn and I was doing that, one of my practitioners. And as we were talking to them, we asked them, can they take advantage of all the new hires at Amazon, Kroger, and Walmart? And they didn't really understand how they could do it. We understood it, but their mind wouldn't let them change their operation to take advantage of the fact that those entities are hiring at a significantly higher level than anyone else is and has in the last decade. So when we talk about leveraging, we're going to take something that currently exists or something that has not existed the way in which we thought, and we're going to use it to our advantage. And that looks different for each and every single one of you. Well, next, we have to fuse the traditional and contemporary behavior. So when we talk about traditional behavior, there's a lot of business that's done, or I'll give you an example myself. I'll use my own company as an example. I do not use social media to generate activity. We do business very traditionally. We make phone calls, we show up to events, we shake hands and look in people's eyes. Well, that traditional method has been halted because no one wants to shake a hand and no one wants to be in the same room with anyone right now. Well, what does that mean? Well, there's also contemporary behavior. Well, there's ways for us to reach our constituents globally through digital means. So now we've leveraged and leaned on those digital means much higher than we ever did in the past. And then once the ban is lifted, we're going to see how much of that we have to be. So beforehand, we were probably 90 traditional, 10 contemporary. We might have to be more 50-50 moving forward. Either way, mentally and skill-wise, we're equipped to handle it. So we build platforms, we understand the algorithms of social media, we actually teach those things, we just don't use them because we don't have a need for them. But if we need them, we now can use them. So what I'm offering to you guys as a recommendation is legitimately understand your traditional method of doing business and then saying, well, what's new? What's coming down the pike? And how do I fuse that to be a natural offering to the people? Capitalization of fallout. How do you make good of a bad situation? How do you take something that says it was to everyone else's detriment, but I'm going to make it to my benefit? Now that kind of seems like you're an opportunist, or as if you're insensitive to the times. But I submit to you that that's not the case. What you're looking to do for the livelihood of your business is to take something that has been negative for so many people and say, well, how can this benefit me more than it can benefit everyone else? And that's going to take intentional research and understanding of your market to be able to produce that. And then lastly here, a new or an enhanced value proposition. I want to submit to you that whatever you think your value proposition is, you better make it better. So even with, Carl Daniels, who, was at PNC Bank. Well, the bank is a bank. I mean, Park National is a bank, Chase is a bank, Fifth Third's a bank. They all have programs, they all lend money. Well, something about PNC has to be different. And if it's not different, which is fine, their constituents better see them as the only legitimate resource for their needs. And so being able to craft that messaging and then being able to offer that messaging can be complicated for many people because your mind doesn't necessarily think in those ways psychologically. So whether that's something you know how to do on your own or with your team, great. And if not, seek guidance for that reality. You've got a lot of people out here, and this is not a plug for my business, but we assist with that. But there's also a host of marketing gurus that exist and storytellers that exist. What I recommend is if it's not your expertise, find someone where it is their expertise because you're going to need it. And then that's all the presentation from there. This is all of our contact information in the event that someone wants to follow up or have a conversation about their particular industries. So in the interest of time and what we have, are there any direct questions or anything that somebody wants to pose to me while we can?
This is Sean Galloway. I was interested in seeing if you can send over where we would submit for making masks. I have a few clothing designers who are interested in mass production of them. They've already started on them and already have like 600 of them made. So they're just trying to keep it going and see on what they can do to contribute to the cause.
Okay, well, what'll happen is Kenny Glenn will follow up with you, and then we'll be able to get the information to you and then make that bridge accessible for you.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Anyone else at all for the good of the order? All right. Well, guys, thanks so very much. And Jordan Ivory, I pass it along back to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for coming out today and joining us for another installment of virtual programming with the African American Chamber. I know other chambers are doing programs solely focused on COVID-19, okay? And although I think that that is very important, I think that we have to have exactly what we're doing today, things that are teaching us how to navigate it for us too. J.C. Baker and Associates does a phenomenal job, and I say that before the virus came, okay? They have done a phenomenal job. And the one thing that Dr. J.C. Baker taught me before all of this happened is that you cannot be reactionary. You cannot be reactionary. You have to be prepared. And I'm so glad that I was able to bring this to the forefront and during this time, because there's a lot of information going out. A lot of it is hard to transpose into exactly what that means for your business. And Dr. J.C. Baker and J.C. Baker and Associates, Kenneth Glenn, as well as my man, Roderick Mills Jr., they do a great job of listening to your symptoms and helping you find a diagnosis to help you reach truly success during trying times, during good times, okay? They really know a whole lot. I won't say they know it all, okay, because I won't put that kind of pressure on them. But I'm telling you, these guys really are in a bunch of different industries. And if you know me, I don't just vouch for business coaches, consultants, social media gurus. I'm very serious about the people that I vouch for. And Dr. J.C. Baker is at the top of my list, okay? I truly believe in what J.C. Baker and Associates is doing. And I have to say, although I'm a guy and a true sports enthusiast, I love your analogies. And truly, that's what I know I said it in the beginning. He talks in a plain text kind of version, so that way you can capture what it is he's saying. But being able to relate it to things that we all have kind of known or experienced, I think help drives the point home. But it also allows us the ability to transpose it into what that means for us. Dr. J.C. Baker has been a longtime member of the Chamber and a longtime supporter of my programs. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for the information today. We are doing great things at the Chamber.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. J.C. Truly.
Let us know.
Yes, sir. We're truly great things are happening here at the Chamber, okay? And although I'm in my living room, okay, at my remote desk, all right, I promise you that we are truly making things happen. We are still open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you need something, call us, okay? Everybody has the general number to the Chamber, but let me give you my personal number, okay? 513-475-7140. That number again, 513-475-7140. Call me, okay? Leave me a message and I'll get right back to you, okay? I check my messages about 4 times a day, okay? Please let me know if you have an idea for a program. If you think that you'd be best suited to teach a program. If you think that you have information that you think can get out here. I have called over 140 people on behalf of the Chamber to check in. We're very serious and intentional about our movements, okay? However, you have to communicate with us your needs, okay? Here at the Chamber, just like with Baker and Associates, we service a large sphere of industries. So if you aren't telling us, there's a chance that we may be missing it. So just let me know. I won't be offended. My feelings won't hurt. And I won't be mad if you tell me how terrible or great my programs are, okay? It is all about us being in this together and bettering ourselves for when we are post-virus. The one thing that I want to say that I think a lot of people are not factoring in, and Prince Johnson is on the line, and we actually had a conversation about this morning in our meeting, is that we have to forecast what's happening after the fact. And Dr. J.C. Baker definitely touched on that, and I am so appreciative of that. I think a lot of us are living in the moment and are reactionary. We have to plan for what's happening after this, okay? And the beautiful thing is that if you're implementing something now, you have to continue that as you go forward, all right? Which leads me into my next thing. If you are unable to attend programs once we're back in the physical chamber space, we will still be on Zoom, okay? And you'll be able to find us at this exact same Zoom location, okay? And flyers are out on social. We are dropping all of April's programs tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we are dropping all of April's programs. I've gotten a lot of feedback about that. However, I know a lot of people are getting tons of emails, okay? We typically drop around this time. However, again, the focus is now in the digital space, all right? I don't want to bombard you with program emails, okay, along with this COVID-19 emails that we are all constantly getting, okay? If you need some information in terms of what programs are coming up or to be able to plan better, please let me know. I would love, absolutely love to inform you. I just don't want to bombard you with a whole bunch of emails, okay? And if you are on our email list, you already get a ton of emails from me already, okay? We have another installment with Dr. J.C. Baker and Associates on April 17th, okay? April 17th. So stay tuned. We'll be dropping more details about that tomorrow. I am really, really, really thankful for everyone being here. If you need me, okay, go to our website, African-American-Chamber.com, okay? Everybody that's on my team, from our sponsorship and transformative initiatives person, program director, which is me, member services manager. We also have President, CEO Eric H. Kearney's information on there. If you need one of us, reach out, okay? If you're uncomfortable reaching out to someone, reach out to me and I will put you in contact, okay? I have no problem throwing you the oop. If there's somebody that you saw on this call today that you want to be connected with, I'm pretty sure I know almost everyone on this list. I will plug you in, okay? This is really about us coming in this together, but coming out of it together again, okay? Someone asked for my number again, so let me throw it at you one more time. 513-475-7140. And again, 513-475-7140, okay? Feel free to reach out to me. Let me know how I can help. If you have ideas, okay, I am open to those, all right? We've got programming happening next week. We've got navigating your budget with COVID during the COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic with Fred Tudor next week as well. Again, all of these details will be dropped on Friday, tomorrow at noon. And the beautiful thing is that you can attend this virtually, okay? Everyone, obviously, who's here can see it, but we're recording too. So if you're watching the replay, thanks for joining us, okay, and coming out, and let us know if we can help. We're here at the African American Chamber, and we're really, really, really serious about being a resource. We're dropping YouTube videos daily. We're dropping social media graphics as well. And by tomorrow, we will have a resource guide, okay? A plain text version of everything that's being talked about. We are in conversations with our local government. We are in conversations with our state government. We are also in touch with the White House. Yes, I said it. We are in touch with the White House, okay? So we are really, really, really trying our best to make sure that we're giving you information that is not only correct, but truly relevant, all right? If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Please take a picture of Dr. J.C. Baker's last slide that he still has up right here, okay? Please reach out to him and his team. They're offering some services right now that I think are essential to all, okay? Please, please, please take advantage of this. We look forward to working with you. We look forward to serving you. And I look forward to having you in our virtual programs. I hope to hear from you guys soon. Let me know if I can do anything for you, okay? I'm very serious about that. If you're a member of the chamber, you should be receiving a phone call. If you have not, please let me know, and I'll make sure to personally reach out. I want to know how you're doing. I want to know how your business is doing. I want to know how the chamber can help. We're very serious and moving intentionally with this. Thank you guys for coming out, and I hope to see you next week at some of our phenomenal and vibrant programs here at the chamber. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.